again, this is Charlie Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT.
I don't know.
There it
Could be
is.
a little flareful
That was
there.
nice.
And I'm sure you hear that a lot. You know, it's just a nice welcome name since it means
Why did my hand just do this? I don't understand.
We got our own emoji.
Right? So, Mario, if you don't mind, give me a little rundown about you, your business, your team. And I know you work with Nicole, who we had on here last week. So, give us an idea why you're important to me.
Me and Nicole, we partnered up in April. We've been working together since 2020. We are out of the Devon office for Dreamtown, Northwest Side on the Edison Park Ridge border. I'm from Norwood Park. Parents still there. I currently live there. Nicole's living in Park Ridge. She's from Jeff Park. You know, we've been able to put a big imprint on the Northwest Side and helping buyers and sellers. And I think our approach to our clients and the market is unique. We tend to try to give back first, and we do that in many different ways throughout the year. And we tell our relationship starts, and we live by that. So
I want to dwell on that today more.
Sure.
About how the relationship starts after the purchase and not before or during. And I know it does. There's always some building up on there. But that really interests me.
Okay.
You know, about building that trust and everything else on there. So you guys do move a lot of houses in that. And how big is your team?
We have, including me and Nicole, we have 3 additional, so 5 total.
Are there any coordinators in there?
We have a virtual assistant out of the Philippines, Mia. She is amazing.
Nope, that's all good. I thought there was more to it
Oh.
than that. I'm sorry, no big deal.
No.
But no, having a good VA and stuff like that, I do the same thing. It's amazing when it comes to that stuff. But I want to go ahead and introduce Patrick and Joey, get them involved on here, then let's get back to the hard truth stuff. Patrick, please.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer. What does that mean? It means that when you're buying or selling a home, you would get me involved to make sure things go smoothly. I like to be found on social media because I find calls and texts to be distracting. I mean, you can, but, you know, I'm not going to tell you my phone numbers. On Instagram, find and follow me, Loftus_law. On TikTok, find and follow me at LoftusLaw.
And usually I don't introduce, myself in the beginning. My name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. And we also do home inspection education. And that website is, it's the Home Inspection University of Illinois. That's what we own. And that website is www.HIUIL.com, so HIUIL.com, for Home Inspection University of Illinois. And my favorite mortgage broker is Joey Mathews, and mostly it's because I don't know why I get all nerdy on this, Joey, but I always want to know what's going on with the rates. How's your business going? Is the phone starting to ring off the hook now, and what are those calls versus what they were a week ago?
And Joey, before you start, I just want you to know, this is going to be broadcast on Saturday. Now, we are recording it Wednesday morning before Jay Powell has told us what's going to happen. So you're going to be checked immediately after you say what you're about to say. No pressure.
Go.
Sorry, guys, I blanked out. What happened? Anyway, so Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at VALoanNerd.com or across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. Feel free to call or text me at 630-235-2405. I've done this before. So what do we got going on? Only like the biggest day in a while, right? We got the Fed is going to announce their 25 pips rate cut. You heard it here first. I just think if they with how hawkish Jay Powell has been just ever, if they were to do a 50 bips cut, I think they would give the wrong message about the state of the economy. So I think they're going to play it safe. It also, they don't meet again until November, and they're going to cut again in November, but this also allows them to see what the initial cut does before that next meeting. And at the next meeting, if the cut is creating a nice soft landing like they're anticipating, then we see another 25 bips cut in November and another 25 probably in December. If the economy, long story short, if we're still getting, if jobs are still getting crushed, if we're still too loose on jobs, after this cut come November, they will do a 50 bips cut. I have seen over the last 10 days pricing improving, but I think it's because we are leaning more towards a 50-50 shot between a 50 bips and 25 bips cut in the Fed funds rate. And keep in mind, these cuts are already priced into the market, mostly. So if we see a 50 bips cut, we'll see pricing improvement today. If we see a 25 bips cut, as I would expect, then we will actually see pricing get worse through the day because I think more traders have been buying as they start thinking there's still a shot at a 50 basis point cut at the Fed fund rate. So yeah, that was a lot of word vomit. Let's go.
Well, Joey, I want to highlight a couple of things that you said. When you talk about a 25, quarter point cut in the Fed funds rate, we're not talking about necessarily a cut to mortgage interest rates. Okay, this interest rate cut is designed more to put additional cash into the economy to encourage employers to open up more jobs, to seek growth, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's it reduces the overnight cost to borrow funds between banks, right? And I know that doesn't feel like it affects anybody, but when banks are borrowing money to you, they're also being charged interest by the Fed by the money that they're borrowing from the Fed, and that is when, if they're spending more money, you're spending more money. Now you can't afford employees. Now, and they're trying to obviously tighten up jobs after a long term of being extra tight. Now we're seeing a lot of loosening. They're just trying to not see unemployment jump more than where it's at right now. Which, at the last meeting it was 4.2% again. I want to say, or no, it was 4.1. The meeting before that it was 4.2%. Yeah. So
Right,
there we go.
range.
There we go.
Where do we want to be again?
It's hard to say. It used to be 5
they
to
don't want to
6%.
be yeah, they don't want to be under 4.1, but 5 to 6 is like a solid number, right?
That was considered full employment, as for most of my adult life, and until COVID happened and changed everything. But yeah, I mean, Joey, what I'm hearing from you is it's like if banks can get 5.3% interest by just putting their money at the Fed, why would they do anything else? To be, really, it's an easy play. As that rate goes down, they are going to do, the risk-reward analysis, and they say, well, we can lend it out at, whatever X interest rate, and it makes more sense not to hold all of their reserves at the Fed, and instead start to lend that money. And as soon as corporate America hears that money is available and it's affordable, they go, all right, we are drunken sailors at the party, and that means jobs.
I like being a drunken sailor. That's not a bad thing, is it?
I don't like the combining the two. I think sailing is something you should do, relatively sober. I mean, power boating, maybe a couple beers, but sailing, I'd probably want to have my wits about me.
And now flashback
Very
to where
hands-on.
I almost died in Belmont Harbor, I think it was. I was on a friend of mine's dinghy that sank in the harbor in the fall or something like that. But anyway, I digressed and stuff. Joey, is your phone ringing more or less right now?
It's my phone is ringing constantly. People looking to refi right now. I locked some this morning already. I'm locking another one right. Well, I was locking another one right now. I got that lock pushed. Now I'm focused on the radio. So, and plus there's also still people buying. So it's a refi plus buy. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you guys are
congratulations
busy.
to everyone working on the refis because freaking you got a ton of equity to mess with. Congratulations. If you're looking to buy, it's going to be tough out there, but make sure you have the right team in your corner to get your offer accepted. That's the most important part for you.
And I couldn't agree more, but is it really that tough to buy right now? Is the market softening up for the buyers? And Mario, I need your help on this.
I think buyers are starting to get a little more leverage than they were earlier this year. Negotiations are coming down a little bit. There's not as many buyers attacking properties, and it all depends on the market that you're in. I saw Glenview being heightened this year and some of the northwest suburbs, but there's micro markets that are stabilizing a little bit, and there's a little bit of uncertainty right now too. There's a lot going on, especially with today and the election. I think it's keeping people on the couch, not getting up and operating with confidence. So a little bit of hesitation at the moment.
Yeah, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe my brain has definitely worked, but I just don't get it. Why does the election have anything to do with home buying, or getting a home for their stuff? And Patrick's looking at me like, you dumb.
I mean, it doesn't have to make it doesn't have to make logical sense to you. I mean, number one,
it does.
You do a real estate podcast, right? And so you talk to real estate professionals on a weekly basis. You've been doing it for 2.5 years. Yeah. And so your mind is what you have is the curse of knowledge. And so to you, I mean, it's I didn't make that up. I mean, it's to you, you're like the election. There's those two things aren't connected. But honestly, and I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I sort of don't see that those two things as logically being connected. But all you have to do is look at history. When we get close to an election, it does freeze people up. They're waiting to see what happens. And Joey, maybe you can chime in on this. Markets are definitely interested to see what happens. Who is going to be in the White House?
I could see.
Who is going to be in control of Congress? Are we going to, when you have, if one party has all three, and that's something the market doesn't like actually. When it's split up, the market likes that because it means that nothing's going to happen.
Joey, before you jump, I think it's the idea, like where we're headed for the next 4 years. It's this 1,000-foot view, and you're looking down going, however the coin lands is going to determine so many different factors. And I don't think a lot of people have that extensive of knowledge on the economy and how finances work. And so they're just kind of looking at it as a feeling almost. Mm-hmm. Do I make a decision right now? Is it going to hurt me? Or is there a benefit waiting a little bit? Do I give it a little bit longer? And we know with the knowledge that timing the market is impossible. You buy when you're ready to buy, you sell when you're ready to sell, and you do other things to kind of make up for the shortcomings of that. So,
and you refinance in between.
Yeah.
Uncertainty freezes people in place, and a presidential election, it by its very nature includes uncertainty. And I don't want to say like, well, this one's special, this one's different, but I do think that the uncertainty of the direction of the two presidential candidates increases the uncertainty. If it's a baseline of 5, let's say you've got I don't know. We could go back in the past and think of elections where it's like, well, if one wins or the other wins, it's not going to make a huge difference. But I think when we talk about the agenda of each side are vastly different.
And they're playing.
Who needs to turn off their Outlook?
Not me.
Not me.
You were saying,
That's going to be my stupid outlook. I don't know how you're hearing that.
Both candidates are playing to the emotions of the public right
it's
now.
Politics, right? Well, everybody plays to your emotions because when we cause somebody's emotions, we cause them to take action.
Or inaction. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You provoke an emotion, you provoke an action, or stopping an action. One of the two, as I like to refer to it that way. But I guess I want to stay focused a little bit on that. Expectations and things being slow and stuff like that. And let me just explain. I got my stepdaughter and her boyfriend. I want them to buy a place. All right, they're renters, and they both make a good income, and they both have savings. They're ready to go, right? But they're afraid. They really don't want to get into a place and have it lose money, and they think they're going to lose all their savings and finances and stuff like that. And I'm like, if you're going to live in a 3-6 flat building, why not buy one and let somebody else pay your rent? And I just had a client do that. And I don't know if any of you three can give me more of an insight. It's just so hard for my brain to absorb that somebody's willing to pay nearly $3,000 a month in rent, and they're getting higher and higher every time, and then there's really not a lot of rental properties out there, as opposed to buying and being in the driver's seat.
How old are they?
They're in their mid to late 20s.
They're not ready.
Man.
Yeah, but why?
Okay.
But why? So I deal with first-time home buyers a lot in this situation, and it starts with asking questions that no one else is asking them, right? To get them thinking in a different way. And one of the first things I ask is, okay, how much are you paying for rent? Let's calculate 2 to 3 years of paying that rent. And usually it's the $3,000 mark or more if they're living in the city. And it's a large number when they look at it that way. And then we jump to the other side of the coin. We say, okay, the true winner in real estate bought yesterday. And in 10 years or in 5 months, that's going to be the person who bought 5 months ago. So I start to get them to think, you're taking a risk, but you're also gaining an asset and building equity. And let's factor in what you're paying for rent over 3 years. There's your cushion, because there's one truth, you have to pay for a roof over your head.
You got to do that.
That's
Food,
it,
water,
shelter. Yep. So if we start to look at it and break it down into, what's the risk, what risk are you actually putting in front of yourself? Does it even exist? Or is it, again, just a thought and an idea that someone needs to challenge for you?
Well, I think someone who's in, you said, mid to late 20s, I mean, their identity is probably still, that I'm a young person, and that, owning a home is for someone who's, I know there are quite a few people out there who think that it doesn't make sense to own a home until you're married. Is that the case? No, I don't think that really factors into it at all. But there are many people that think that that's the natural progression of life. So, you're dealing with, I think, some cultural, biases or just identity issues. But another thing that people don't, especially if you're renters, especially, if you've only been paying, big boy taxes for a few years, you don't realize that all of a sudden, with the way the standard deductions are today, and I don't know what's going to happen once the 2017 tax bill sunsets. I believe that's happening soon. But you start to bring Schedule A on your 1040 into the mix, which really, back when the standard deduction was like under 5K, that was a game changer as far as your real estate taxes.
That was a huge game changer.
I remember my first tax return after I bought my first place. I was just like, oh yeah, this is all right, and it's always now. Last year, the standard. I'm married now, and we get 23 grand standard deduction. Schedule A didn't factor in. It was really all about the business side of things to cushion the tax situation. But sitting someone down and doing that math as well, that may I think at the end of the day, if you could show someone a situation where their lifestyle would be at least the same, but they're paying less than what they'd be paying in rent, I think that would be persuasive. I think if it is equal or more what they'd be paying, I don't think that it's going to be persuasive to say, but you're buying an asset that's going to appreciate, and you can use that as a springboard to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. They're going to look. They're not going to have a long view of things. That they're too young to really have that kind of perspective. Speaking very generally.
Joy, what three things do we need, and where do we put our money if we want to build wealth? Is there just real estate, or is there other
Bitcoin.
things? I know that's.
I'm a real estate guy myself. No, you got to have a balanced portfolio, and real estate assets absolutely has to be part of that. And what you're saying, it's interesting that it's your kids that are on the fence about buying, but generally Gen Xers and millennials are the ones who are really on the fence. Like, oh, I don't want another 2008. Gen Z there are more buyers at 25 years and younger than there were with Gen X and millennials. Period.
Yeah, 2008 was a big kick in the kneecap. There's no doubt.
It's a defining moment for anyone 30 to 50 years old.
And their kids.
But that comes into the education. They
Yeah.
look at that and they think that can happen again. And then you ask the
And again,
question, why do you,
It absolutely can. Anything can happen.
well, right, but a lot has changed, and Joey can speak to it. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but there's no reflective, happenings of 2008.
Yeah, the macroeconomic indicators they're nowhere near where they were in 2008.
Yeah.
Add into the fact that there were significant reforms to the mortgage business that Joey could speak to that really put some significant guardrails against the kind of rampant overlending that was taking place prior thereto. And I saw it, and it was, as a young person at that time, people were talking about like, no, real estate never depreciates in value. That people said that with their full chest. That was like the dogma, and that was why that was one of the things that fueled refi after refi after refi, and these just completely unsustainable increases in property values, and
Taking money out of the house.
add in fraud and other things. It was like not great.
And there was also the shock in the gas prices back then too that a lot of people seem to forget. And I was a victim of this, and I shouldn't use the word victim. It was my choice and my action. I decided to move far away from my place of employment, and so did my neighbors, so I can have the bigger house at that point in time. Problem came in when gas prices then, we're talking 2007, not today's dollars, when gas prices hit $4.50, $4.25, which is an equivalent of $6 to $7 a gallon today. And you think about that kind of money, and again, we go back to food, water, shelter. You're going to go to work, you're going to pay your mortgage, you're going to buy your food, you're going to get your necessities, but you're not going to go out to dinner. You're not going to go to the movies. You're not going to travel as much as you're going to do. And then those industries start to start.
Yeah, I'm just
And
gonna use my
that's
credit
where
cards.
everything comes in there.
It's fine.
Charge, right? I learned that from
Yeah.
Wilma Flintstone.
Okay.
Joey, do you know who Wilma Flintstone is?
Sir,
you're
I don't
the
know how,
youngest one,
how,
I think.
how young you think I am, but yeah,
I
I
know
know
who
the
she is.
Flintstones, sir.
Nice big set of pearls.
Da-da-da-da-da, charge it.
We have fun.
And I learned that from her. All right, Joey, I want a story from you. I want a hard truth story. So give me a client that you were getting a mortgage to that you had to give them bad news. And how'd you do it?
Bad news? Well, I mean, my bad story is a good story for me, technically, and it just happened less than a month ago now. Buyer shopped me immediately with an online lender. I saw their loan estimate. I said I would match it. He was like, oh, well, I'm going to go with them. They already have, my bank, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, hey, well, I'm going to keep your file open because they're not going to be able to close this. I know your situation. It's very unique.
You actually said that
And-
to him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know I can close it.
It sounds cocky, but man, do I like
No,
it.
well,
You
I know who my competition is. At the end of the day, I know who this is, and I know they're going to have issues. So a week before closing, I ordered my appraisal. I paid for the appraisal out of pocket myself. And we came in over $100K over the purchase price. I was like, all right,
On the appraisal?
cool. Yes. It was a $700,000 purchase, came back at $800,000 on the appraisal.
I mean, sometimes that
anyway.
can be a problem, right? Like sometimes
No, the seller doesn't get told.
No, I know, but I've heard scenarios where an appraiser's like, I could actually make this. This could be higher, but like if I do it much higher, there's going to be like
Oh.
flags over at the lender.
Yeah,
because-
Fannie and Freddie, they have reports that indicate the potential overvaluation of a property. It's a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. So, and thankfully, you get 2 scores. So you get the Fannie score and the Freddie score, and if one of them's lower, just make sure you're switching your lock to whoever's lower, so you're gonna have to get a desk review or a field review or a second appraisal. But yes, correct. That's a thing. Anyway, so the other lender, it's a week before. They're supposed to close on Friday, and now it's the Monday before closing. And the list agent calls me because I told everybody I was keeping my file open. I was like, "Hey guys, I know they're switching lenders. Whatever, it is what it is. If they close, awesome. No matter what, if the other lender has an issue, I promise you I can close this thing on time." So Monday comes around and I get blown up by the list agent, the selling attorney, or I'm sorry, the buying agent, buying attorney, selling attorney, and they ask if this can still happen because the online lender was requiring a bunch of repairs from the appraisal and had never gone to underwriting. So I said yes. The guy called me. He was like, "Hey, can you still match your loan estimate?" I was like, "I can't anymore, man. I offered it up front, but it is what it is now." So, long story short, could have saved some money by sticking with the guy who knows he can close things, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm very blunt with people. I know who my competition is, and I know who can close what.
So those are some hard truths.
Joey, question: do you ever, when you're initially talking with a potential client, a buyer, and do you tell them, hey, or ask them, are you guys planning on shopping the rate? If so, could you give me an opportunity to match? Do you set the stage with that ever?
I really don't. I don't work with a ton of realtors, so a lot of my referrals are direct from other people I've worked with in the past, so other borrowers, so rebuyer purchase borrowers.
Okay.
And so, generally, the triangle of trust is developed through that. I never really have that conversation. I know that I'm very competitive, rate-wise, all that good stuff, because I have myself set up to be very competitive. So the only time I ever see myself getting beat is with those really ungood company. I'm not going to say the bad word. Crappy companies that at the end of the day, you're going to see these rates, but if it never closes, you never had the rate in the first place, right? And that's what it's hard to impress upon people, because they just see, oh, a mortgage is a mortgage is a mortgage. They don't see what goes on the back end. They don't see the knowledge base that you have to know if you can close something or not. So, yeah.
And those loan estimates are incredibly confusing. And, Joey, you and I had a scenario where I was looking at 2 loan estimates. I'm just like, I don't know. And yeah, I look at loan documents. I look at these things all the time. And I was just like, I could spend an hour on this and really try to dive into it, or I could just send it to Joey and he'll tell me in 2 minutes. And it's like, if I'm having difficulty, I don't see where your average consumer stands a shot at doing anything other than looking at the rate and being like, well, this one's lower than that one.
Yeah.
So did you get that mortgage or not?
Me? Yeah, absolutely. I closed it. I actually ended up closing it a day early.
That's amazing.
So it came back to me on Monday. I had it clear to close Tuesday. We closed on Thursday. And I sent the CD out, the closing disclosure out, the Thursday prior, just because I knew I was going to have a compliance issue if I didn't for the closing timeline. So yeah, we ended up closing a day early.
Now, most of our clients are direct-to-consumer, and there's always a lot of price shopping. And one of the things I will not do is match somebody else's price. And my thought process is, you match my service if we're going to match your price. And then I have to be able to explain to my clients why my service is worth twice what our competition is charging. Because when people search on Yelp, I know that there's people, our competition, and just like you, I'm a businessman, I want to know my competition, and I know they're half our fee. And so now why not save $250 and go with that other person as opposed to spending $500 with me? And I got to be able to articulate that in a very short minute. So I get it. We're there, and I don't land them all, but I think we do a pretty good job at landing most of them. But again, it goes back to the hard truth. It's like I can sit there and tell you anything you want. And Mario, I'm sure that you've dealt with home inspectors or maybe even attorneys or mortgage brokers that will tell everybody what they want and they'll be happy. But then when you finally get to the end, all of a sudden you got 600 plates spinning on 600 sticks and 500 are falling down because you just can't do what you need to do.
Yeah, and I mean, with sellers and with buyers, from those initial listing presentations at their home or meetings at the office with my buyers, I'm letting them know that we're not always going to maybe be on the same page, because there's a lot to a real estate transaction, and some of them have no idea where it's going to go from the beginning. So looking them in their eyes and letting them know that I'm going to be here no matter what. I'm going to give you those hard truths. I'm going to tell you things you might not want to hear sometimes. I'm going to point out shortcomings. on either the house you're trying to buy or the house we're trying to sell, but do it in a way that says, this is for the greater good, this is for the outcome. And use that experience that we have, our team. We meet once a week, we collaborate on all of our deals, what's happening, and we use this experience and this continuous market knowledge and sharing these to guide our sellers and buyers. But it comes down to telling them uncomfortable truths, hard truths, and I think that builds confidence in who they're working with. They can look you in the eyes, as I said before, and say, Mario cares. He actually cares. You know, maybe that was a tough conversation, but he cares.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to diminish the caring part, but it is more than just caring. All right, it's a big part. But you also have to have the knowledge to back it up. You know, if you're inexperienced and you're just not able to have that knowledge, because, I don't know, I keep repeating over and over again, we're in the education business, all right? That's all we do. We're consultants. We give the knowledge to our clients so we empower them to make good buying decisions, period, all right? And if you don't have that knowledge where you can go ahead and do it, I think that's why so many, or such a high percentage, fails, except for the real estate attorneys. They seem to never go away.
We don't. Yeah, we're like cockroaches.
I prefer bad boogers.
Honestly,
you just flick your finger.
you know,
I love real estate attorneys. You guys are fantastic in this
I only
industry.
like Patrick.
well, I mean, look, if experience, well, let me disagree with you about something here, and that is, I mean, sure, do I want to hire a lawyer who is freshly out of law school, who cares a lot but just doesn't have any experience? Probably not, because that person needs some seasoning. But do I want to hire a lawyer who's been doing it for 10 years but cares a lot and is going to do what is necessary to gain the knowledge and information to competently represent a buyer and cares, or seller, as opposed to hiring some guy who's been doing it for 40 years and it's just like, you know, he's just passing time until they get to move down to Scottsdale permanently. I want the guy before. I don't want the person, right? The guy is, you know, not supposed to be saying those sorts of things, but I think caring matters probably even more than the experience. Like experience, and once you have a baseline of at least understanding where to find issues. I mean, I'm constantly learning. I'm a better, more experienced,
Me too.
better with more background lawyer than I was 5 years ago. Doesn't mean I was bad and no one should hire 5 years ago me. Fortunately, many people were happy to hire 5 years ago me, or else I wouldn't be sitting here today. But yeah, I think that the experience without the caring part that doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, I guess I maybe didn't highlight that. I feel like I put that first and forward. Obviously, we have the experience, our team, and the amount of clients that we help every year. But we use a lot of case studies. Me and Nicole have always tried to build, either in conversation, but even marketing pieces, to have an experience where a hard truth or a situation that went south in our experience, we were able to get the client a good result. We highlight that. We take note of it. And
Give me an example then. Highlight one for me, please.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
I always do. And look at the bright side. I didn't wait to the last minute and then ask you that question.
No, I mean, there's probably better examples, but one that just comes to mind is, you know, when you're sitting with a seller and they want to fight you on, you know, staging or doing something with the house, or fight you on the little nuances that you know help determine value of a home.
Because that costs money up front, right?
Yeah, and we've taken that cost sometimes when we know that it's going to help the outcome. You know, that's what we will do selfishly if we see that being the one variable to get them a good result.
So let me jog your memory a little bit, because you told us a story at breakfast that I think might be a good example here, and that is
Thank you.
where you had a client who just the house wasn't selling because of problems with the roof, and I think you found a pretty creative solution to that problem that ended up with a very good result for the client.
Yeah, so we had put a property under contract a couple times. The siding was in rough shape, the soffits, the roof, some of the gutters. And the client didn't want to spend that much money to sell it. And
They never do.
you know, with something like siding and roofing and fascia, it's tough. It's tough to look at.
Expensive. It's a lot of money.
It's expensive, but it's tough.
It's an all or nothing deal because you can't replace one piece of vinyl siding.
Exactly, and you mentioned this with in another scenario at breakfast too. Buyers are walking in, they want to see a newer kitchen. They want to see a new updated bathroom or hardwood floors where there was carpet.
The sexy stuff.
A roof, a siding, those are things that a buyer takes for granted. Like, you know what, it keeps water out of my house. And if it's new or 10 years old, if it's doing its job, it's doing its job. In this case, it was too much. And at the price point, the buyers coming in didn't have the capital to say, I will be able to replace this in the first year or two. So I came up with a creative idea. Let's talk to your insurance company. Let's see if we can do something here. So we put the property on temp, and we ended up getting them the complete new roofs, soffit, gutters, fascia, downspouts, and we went and sold the property for another 40 grand.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was a great result.
Yeah,
And it was something I had never done before, but again, to experience, that will be something I think of in the future for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think more than a few agents in that scenario, they might have either just said, well, eventually we'll find a dumb buyer.
Drop the price, drop the price.
Yeah, we'll find it
Again, where
naive.
goes, either you don't know or you don't care. You need both. You need the care and the knowledge.
And I told him, I said, we can drop the price and eventually fire sell it, but that still doesn't put money in a buyer's pocket. That's 30 grand minimum to do all this work. If they're at 5%, and where are they going to come up with the cash? Even if they're getting the house 50 grand less than where we maybe started, it doesn't solve the problem. So, creative solution, good outcome.
Now, the good news is that I'm going to trigger Joey here a little bit, I think.
Nice.
Exactly. So, the good news is with the climate change that's happening.
Oh, God.
Sorry, everyone.
I'm
That's
surprised.
gonna trigger me? All right.
I'm
We're going to get
surprised
more
that.
storms, more hail damage, more tornadoes, more everything else, and more opportunities for insurance claims that come of it. But I really, and somebody please tell me if I'm wrong or not, but if I have a house, and I buy a house, and it has hail damage that happened within the past year, but I take possession of this house, is that considered pre-existing? So once I get my new insurance, I can't claim that roof.
You can't. I mean,
cannot.
you could try, but it would be,
It would probably be
technically
denied.
speaking, it would be an insurance fraud. To try to claim
Fraud.
pre-existing. Well, sure, so that insurance policy covers, it's going to be I believe it would be an occurrence-based policy, so
Yes.
not a claims made. So, and reach out to me on social media if you want me to explain the difference between those two. But anything that happens after the start of that policy, before the start of that policy, that's not what's meant to be covered. What's meant to be covered is anything that happens after. So if it's existing and you go, maybe I'll sneak this one by my insurance company, yeah, that's fraud. That's fraud. You're trying to make a claim on something and
But
you're
if
trying
you
to
tell
you're trying
them
to
the truth, it's not fraud.
if you tell them the
they
truth, they'll
deny
just
it.
be like, I'm not even coming out.
Right. They'll just deny it that comes in there. You're
And-
going to add?
And I've learned a little bit more in-depth knowledge on the process. These insurance companies have software and systems. I mean, they can figure out the size of the hail in very, very micro patterns. So you're not going to fool most of them. They have the data and the storm information to call you out on it.
Oh,
But you know
they've
who
got
else
so much
has the data?
information.
Are the private insurance adjusters.
Oh.
They get access to that same stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, let's just say not everybody's going to be in your best interest as a homeowner, all right? Maybe your insurance company's not going to be there 100%. But finding another private person, another consultant that knows the rules and understands what the insurance companies are governed by and able to help you get the full benefit, that's not a bad thing. I know they get negative phrases thrown at them like storm chasers and things like that. But, we work with two good roofing companies that are also insurance adjusters. And they've done wonders for our clients
Oh, absolutely.
in getting stuff like that. So I think it's a smart idea. The only thing that I have to take back on what I've been coaching my clients on, because, one of the insurance agents told me that you can make a claim on somebody else's insurance. Of course, you have to get their permission. you have to do this stuff, but it never dawned on me how long it took. And it's weird because I did have hail damage done to a roof that I owned in the past, and it seemed like it was less than a month. It was like 2-3 weeks before beginning that a roof is replaced and payment is made.
It depends on so many factors. It depends on the insurance company. It even depends on what kind of year the insurance company's had. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
well, I mean, is this like the 5th major storm in your area where they're look, insurance companies are a for-profit business, and
Absolutely.
the whole thing is based on we take in more premiums than we pay out in claims, and they have control over the premiums, and that's where they have actuaries that are like some of the smartest people out there, who they're almost they almost have a crystal ball by doing math and based on different all kinds of different pieces of data to figure out how to remain competitive as far as the premiums they charge and still make a profit, and they do quite well with it. But they have no control over the claims that come in, and so if there is a year where there's more claims, let's say it's in Florida and there's a very mild hurricane season, I would imagine that if you have a claim for property damage on your home, you're going to have a lot better time of it than if there have been 2 major hurricanes coming through in a fairly small geographic area. So, if that was a relatively calm summer that you went through that, it's just it's a crazy thing.
All right.
And premiums go up. I mean, you're paying for the roof almost indirectly when a market's saturated with claims and everybody's go up by 15%.
And that's the reason why I have trouble right there. What you just said is why I have so much trouble when people say, "Oh, I don't want to get a ding on my record. I don't want to, do this. I don't want to cause my rates to go up." It's like your rates are going up.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your house. It has to do with your neighborhood. That comes in there and your credit rating. What do you mean?
No, let me just be real cynical for a
Please.
second. I mean, why would that be? Why is there this conventional wisdom that making claims is bad and it's going to cost you money in the long run? It's not that notion didn't come from out of nowhere. That's something that insurance companies want you to think, because it discourages, it causes an emotion to take place that I don't want to pay more money, and it causes inaction because people think that, well, if I don't do this, it will be a better outcome for me.
And I just witnessed a weave?
Gross. Look, at the end of the day, you're buying this insurance. The whole point is to mitigate risk. The risk that you're mitigating is that you will have a large unexpected expense at a point in time that you're not able to bear that expense. So you pay a little bit of money over short periods of time so that they have the money of yours to pay these claims. And so take advantage. Use the product you're buying.
People do. If you knock, that's why they knock on the doors and they say, "Hey, we got 2 of your neighbors' new roofs. You want us to call your insurance company?" Yeah, sure. Nobody says,
Yeah.
I got 5 years left on it. I'm okay.
But I have had neighbors that did do that. That refuse to do it. And again, everybody gets to make their own choice.
decision,
I'm
yeah.
going to wave my American flag.
I'm selling next year. I don't want anything, I don't want anything insurance-wise to pop up.
Whatever their reasoning is.
The more I just read the comment section in the various social media, places, the more I'm just like, man, there are some people out there with some really, really ill-informed, really unfortunate ideas out there about how stuff works.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to share a hard truth, and I want you 3 to jump in and tell me how I should handle this one. And this was going back about a year and a half ago, and it happened a couple times, surprisingly. I had people tell me that we bid $50,000 over asking price on this house. I need you to make a big long list so that we can negotiate these things down. My response to them was, listen, we pride ourselves on making a long list. We're not going to lie. We're not going to fabricate. We're going to take our time. We're going to go slow. We're going to document it. But it is what it is, all right? And that's all there is to it. Goes, yeah, but I want to have the tools to negotiate. And I'm like, if you want me to tell you that I'm going to go ahead and get you this super long list, I'm going to make a promise that I can't deliver. And I won't do that. And what do you guys think? How do you handle a client or a potential client? And these did end up being clients, even though I said no, to them. How do you handle something like that if they're calling you and wondering about the same thing? Because we're all in the same boat.
I missed it. This is a buyer paying $50,000. What was the scenario?
They wanted to find a bunch of stuff. The negotiation didn't turn out exactly the way they wanted. They're paying $50K over what they thought the house was worth. And so they go to Charlie and they go, I need you to find a crack in the foundation, a bad roof, shifting, find me $50,000 worth of stuff so I can knock these guys back down to what I think I should be paying for the house.
Well, you hear this a lot from buyers. I don't want to overpay. And I go, well, what's your
Nobody
definition?
does. No, I can buy into that.
But as they say that, I ask them a question right away. I go, what is overpaying to you? Explain what your definition is of overpaying. And they usually get tripped up. And go, well, let's talk about it. Let's dissect that. Do you have this notion that in competition, the price gets driven up? Are you really overpaying for something? Or are you just competing for it? If three other people are willing to pay what you're willing to pay, are you overpaying? And so it goes back to, just asking questions and getting there. But I tell them in the beginning that the inspection's not time to renegotiate price. I say that from my first meeting. I tell them also that I'm going to fight for you if there's opportunities. But they need to understand that that's not how you go through a real estate transaction.
No, you really, first of all, if you are looking for a bunch of stuff wrong with the property, I'm assuming that they're not asking you to fabricate an inspection where you're finding things that don't exist, because that's just outright dishonest. And to expect a licensed professional to get in bed with your dishonesty, I mean, find a dishonest professional then, because that's not who Charlie is, and that's not who most people
will
are.
tell you what you want to hear in order to get you to be their client. And that's where I think this hard truth.
Sure,
really
maybe
comes
they
from.
would say, I will find as many things as possible, and then they'll do the inspection they do. When a client comes to me and at that point the inspection's done, and they go, well, this is how much I want. We go through the inspection, and sometimes I just have to say, look, I appreciate where you're coming from. We'll do what you want, but this is the good news for you is that this list is fairly innocuous. There's not much here. It's a good house. You should feel good about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have $10,000 worth of things to, even if I make this list look as, using my fancy lawyer words, I can try to make this list look as dire as possible. I'm never getting a 10K. So we'll ask for 10K if you want. I'm not going to be able to provide a 10K list, and we're likely to fail unless there's some information that we're not aware of.
The hard truth there, I would say then this isn't the house for you. If this is what you think is the course of action, let's get back on the horse.
Yeah, but a couple years ago, it was the truth on just about every transaction. Just almost everybody was overpaying.
Some buyers need to walk away from something and to realize that.
What do you mean by overpaying? 2 years ago, if you bought a house 2 years ago,
Forgive me, over mispriced. They were bidding.
You might have thought you paid more than you should have, but if 2 years later you're looking at what the value is now, you're going, oh, and I did good.
I tell buyers, have amnesia when you look at that list price, because all that is a strategic set of numbers that the listing agent and the seller have come up with to enter the market. So if we end up over that, it's not overpaying. You're capturing the property. Let's not forget what our goal is here.
Yeah, on the list side, I'm sure the conversation is, look, let's target a number that is either right there, even slightly less, because we want to stoke a bidding war, which is going to, in all likelihood, result in an over-ask sale price. So the psychology. You can paint that picture for them and reverse it. I think that's really effective.
There's so much psychology in the numbers of it. It's wild. We could do a podcast on that next time.
No doubt.
or a radio show. That's right. Coming in, I know. Mario's laughing at me.
I'm novice, very novice
Mario
here. I'm
doesn't-
learning the ways.
He doesn't understand my
Mario
triggers.
doesn't have enough gray hair to be on a radio show. He's a
That's for
podcast
sure.
man.
Yeah, he's still young and handsome. This boomer, you know,
It's a
and I am
podcast.
a boomer. All right, that comes in here, but it's, I don't know, it just gets crazy sometimes. But it's the whole idea is, what was the smart aleck comment that always came up? How much is my house worth? Well, it's worth whatever anybody's willing to pay. You know, that's what it's worth. And then how do you figure that one out? I don't know. You know, but that's where you come.
That's why
Right.
we rely on the professional that is responsible for having that knowledge and having that wisdom and having that expertise and experience.
And I couldn't agree more and stuff like that. But anyway, that's enough of my little whining and stuff like that about, you know, hard knocks when it comes into this. We are getting up towards the end of the hour.
Hard truths.
Hard truth, right? And hard knocks that comes in there. I would like to get some final thoughts and words and stuff like that. And a lot of it has to do with value that comes in there. So, you know, Mario, I'd like you to talk to a home buyer or a home seller right now and give them a few words of wisdom. You know, what are the most valuable things that you want to find about a real estate broker? What are the things that you should be looking for? And how does a real estate broker prove that they have what you need?
Well, I think you need to. I sit down with my buyers and I want them to leave our meeting feeling that at every turn, every moment, every hiccup, I'm going to have their best interest in mind. And I do that, and that comes with experience, case studies, talking about what to expect, letting them know that they're not going to learn everything in this 45-minute meeting. But along the way, I'm going to use many opportunities to give you the knowledge that I have inside of me so that you feel confident and go, Mario, we love this home, go get it for me. Or Mario, yes, we listen to your words because we trust you.
I couldn't agree more. I love it. Patrick, can you give us your contact info, please?
No final words from you?
No final words for you. Nobody likes you.
Well,
Let's get that
in
understood.
today's society where we're so, anyways, no final words. My name's Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer. My law firm's called Loftus Law. Find me on Instagram and find me on TikTok. Instagram, Loftus_law. On TikTok, Loftus Law. I give you everything you need to know about what I'm about, and if you like it, you know, we can work together.
I love it. Joey, please.
Joey Mathews, VA Loan Nerd. You can call or text me at 630-235-2405. Find me at thevaloannerd.com or across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd.
And you still had the most romantic voice on radio. I can't agree. You know.
Find him driving
Love
around.
you,
Sounds
Dave.
like Frasier.
Find him
does.
driving around Phoenix in a wrapped Cybertruck and, you know,
Prettiest thing in the world.
honk at him.
And honk at 'em. My name is Charlie Bellefontaine, Chicagoland Home Inspectors, and I just want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you, Devin Tingle, for making everything work. And that's all I got. My name's Charlie.